Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Command Blocks. In this episode I'm going to be showing you how to use the summon command to spawn in fireworks and how to customize them. So start off by crafting a firework. I'm sure you're familiar with how to do this by now, but if you're not, check out some of my other videos that go into more detail about customizing fireworks and etc. Once you have the firework in question, put it on the ground and fire it into the air. Now hop on over into MBT Editor. If you don't have MBT Editor, download it from the video description. Whilst you're there, also grab TextLevel's MBT Editor filter, because once you've selected the firework entity in MBT Editor, that's the filter you're going to run. Now I should mention that having MBT Editor and using the filter is completely optional. The only reason we're doing it is to see what the MBT data for the firework looks like. So with that in mind, leave the MBT Editor window open and then go back into Minecraft. Don't panic though, even though you have MBT Editor open and Minecraft at the same time, the world isn't going to end like most people seem to think. Anyway, grab a command block and inside the summon command have it summon a FireworksRocketEntity. Now if you go ahead and just try spawn that in straight away, you'll notice the rocket appears very briefly and then disappears. This is because you have to add the extra NBT data. Now if you are incompetent at NBT structuring in command blocks, I suggest you watch the video I did on the give command, and the principles are exactly the same here. Anyway, in our main branch we have the lifetime and FireworksItem tags. The lifetime tag is the amount of time measured in ticks from when the firework is spawned to when it explodes. The FireworksItem tag is where you branch into the next layer. In there we have the ID for the firework, which is of course just 401, the general ID for a firework entity or rocket. We also have the tag, which is used to branch into the next set of tags. After that we branch through the firework, then open up the explosions. Now this is where things get a little bit more complicated. If we have a look in MBT Editor, we can see that when we get to here we reach a series of unnamed tags which are very difficult to format in command blocks. But before I get onto that, I want to explain the explosion tag data. In there we have the various tags and effects such as flicker and trail, which can opt to be set, and if they are set to 1 it's active, and if they're set to 0 it's deactive. Then we have the type tag, which is an integer to tell the firework if it's creeper shaped, a large ball, a star, or etc. However, what we really want to have a look at right now is the colors tag, because they are very difficult to understand. So, if you've done any work with computers in the past, or televisions, or everything involving graphics, know that pixels on a screen are basically comprised of 3 subpixels of red, green and blue. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that in reality, but you might be wondering why this is even relevant at all. Well, in Minecraft we use red, blue and green values to tell the program how much of each colour it needs to use. These are called the RGB values. But this is done in quite a clever but also complicated way. To explain, I'm going to have to tell you that when a colour is created, there are obviously going to need to be 3 values associated with it. One to tell how much blue, one for green and one for red. Now traditionally across platforms we have these 3 values being from 0 to 255. If you don't understand that fully, then don't worry about it. All you need to do is know how to apply this. So, in order to find these values, we can go onto any site online that will allow you to pick a colour and find the RGB value, or you can use a simple image editor such as Paint to find them. Great, so now we have the RGB values we want. Surely it's as simple as plugging them straight into our command block and hey presto, it'll work. Well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to think again, because it just gets more complicated. In order to use them in Minecraft, you're going to have to convert them into a single number using this complicated looking formula. In order to explain this, I think it's best if we have a look at an example. So I'm going to hop on over to Paint and grab the RGB values for this orangey colour. So if we plug this into our formula, we get 1 plus 256 times 129 plus 6553 times 243, which resolves to 1 plus 33,024 plus 15,925,248, and in total this gives 15,958,273, which is the final value that we can put into the command block, and it's also a massive number which is painful to say out loud. However, I also want to give you a little intuition into how this actually works. Now, when I was actually trying to figure this out, I thought to myself, how would I personally go about bringing 3 numbers together without losing any of the data? Well, I would just times one of them by 1,000, another by 1,000,000, and then just add them all together, meaning that the first 3 digits represent one of the colours, the next 3 represent another, and the last 3 will represent a third colour. This allowed me to use my knowledge of binary to realise this is exactly what the formula is doing, because you are probably aware computers use binary to calculate things, and when we convert things into binary, this does exactly the same thing as before, but that's why we have some funky numbers as opposed to maybe 1,000,000 and 100,000, because binary just uses a different base. Now, if you don't know anything about binary, that doesn't matter at all. If you don't understand that, don't worry yourself. All you actually need to understand is how to find your color and how to use it in the formula, because that's really the most important thing. But there's no wait any more time in this video because it's already long enough. Now we know all the information we need to format this into a command block. So if you're familiar with the command block MBT structuring, it should be fairly straightforward up until the part where you get to the explosions tag. The thing about this is it acts like one of the lists that I discussed in the give command video, except the elements in it are full long tags. So, as I'm sure you'll remember, the list is structured within square brackets and the elements within the list are separated by commas. Now, the way you do this is after the explosion you put a semicolon, then your square brackets, and then the various tags for the type of explosion and other variables. All of which can be found in the NBT data of the firework through MBT Editor or the Minecraft wiki. Again, remember, links in the description. Anyway, the last thing I want to mention is the color tag again. You're never going to hear the end of it, and the way it's structured is you say color with the American spelling, so there's no U in it, then you put a colon, then within the square brackets after that you have the color values you found using the formula. The reason it's done like that is because you can have multiple colors in the same firework for extra customizable effects. However, the very last thing I want to touch on is the fact that a firework can have more than one explosion. The way you do this is in the square brackets you open from the original explosion tag, you have multiple curly bracket data tags, like the ones we had before. However, that's all I really have here in this video. I hope it wasn't too confusing, and remember, if you want examples of the commands that I've been using and talking about, then have a look in the video description for a link to a bunch of example commands that you can use with and experiment for yourself. Because personally, I think that it would be much easier for you guys to actually get a grasp of how to use these things if you actually see the command, lay it all out in front of you, and see how the things are structured so that you can sort of pick it out yourself and see how it works. So, if you've enjoyed, a rating would be much appreciated, and if you have any questions, leave them in the section below. But that's for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.